Hello everyone and welcome to the latest Sussex Police Federation podcast. My name is Royston Martis and I'm delighted to be joined once again by the immaculate chair of Sussex Police Federation, Raf Cioffe. Raf, hello, how are you?
Thank you, I'm very good, thank you, Royston.
We join you from Sussex Police Federation HQ, which is currently going through a fantastic refit, which we cannot wait to show you. So there may be some drilling noises, but don't worry about that. We're going to get to the nub of what is bothering police officers and what should be bothering police officers at the moment. So today we're going to talk about pay and conditions. It's going to be the real focus today. Raf, I'm going to start by asking you about the recommendations to the police remuneration police pay review body, we'll call it, around what we're going to describe as a tax on police officer pay and conditions. And those attacks, we should say, are sadly coming from your fellow officers, your fellow chief officers. We're unused to that. We used to attack perhaps coming from the government, the Home Office and so on, but for your own chiefs to attack your pay and conditions, what's going on?
So just to make it clear to the members so everyone understands, so the chief constables, the MPCC, they meet quarterly and there are certain people that are in charge of pay and working conditions for police officers all the way up to the chief constable, and they set forward some recommendations. This is the first time that I've noticed in a very long time that they've actually started attacking, and I do mean it as an attack, because it is an attack on the constable's hourly rate in relation to overtime and rest day entitlements. And this is the first time it's happened in a long time, Royston. The last time I remember it was in 2012 during the Tom Windsor review, where all of our pay and working conditions were reviewed in one review, and it was a significant blow to the Office of Constables Liberation.
I was around in 2012, Raf. That was an external person. We ended up coming Chief Inspector of Constabulary, but an external person reviewing it and the government accepting his review.
Yeah.
This hurts more, does it not? Because it's your chief officers who've been there and done that as constables who are trying to save money on the back of hard-working police officers.
It's our own leaders who are trying to make a saving in relation to the hourly rate a constable or a sergeant earns when going into rest days and going into overtime, and how that overtime accumulates in relation to our pay. And it really is gutting when there are other battles in policing to be had, and knocking on the door of the constables and sergeants' pockets isn't the place to be looking for savings whatsoever. You need to be, the harder battle to have is to go to government and tell them the demands and the needs of their forces.
So, Raf, how does that make you feel? How does that make your members feel to learn that you're being attacked, your pay and conditions are being attacked by your own bosses?
Yeah, I don't think many members are aware of it at the moment, and they need to be made aware of it, and that's why we're here today talking about it. They need to understand that their own chief constables, nationally as a collective, have made the decision to submit this paper to the pay review body to make recommendations on our behalf without any consultation with us.
And it must make you and colleagues feel devalued, less motivated, want to potentially find other jobs maybe.
All of the above, Royston, devalued, demotivated, and actually what is the value of doing overtime? A lot of the time, for members of the public that are listening, a constable hasn't got a choice in relation to overtime, so therefore it's forced upon them. It's not something that they can volunteer for if they don't want to do it. It's a requirement for them usually, and it is due to the lack of resourcing that we have, the demands that the public place on the Office of Constable, and that's what leads into overtime. And forces are now relying on overtime more and more often. The last 2 years we've had periods of summer where there's been a huge amount of overtime spent in order to deal with public order scenarios throughout the country. And now we're in a position where they want that cheaper. How's that going to make constables feel out on the ground and sergeants?
Because we've got the summer coming up as well, haven't we? In Brighton, it's going to be a busy time.
We are just looking at the peak of the summer, and I hope that we are going to have calmness throughout the country, where officers are going to have a huge demand on their personal time with their family.
Well, it's a nice hope, but
it's a nice hope, but the reality is there are going to be huge amounts of demand placed on the Office of Constables by the public, and that's going to require overtime. And our constables need to be paid correctly for that overtime, Royston.
And rest days and days off cancelled as well, which they're also attacking.
And days off cancelled, where they've made commitments with their families in order to do things together. And at the moment, there are certain safeguards for that, okay? And there's certain compensation given to a constable for that. At the moment, if you're cancelled a rest day less than 15 days notice, it's time and a half, okay? They now want to reduce that to time and a third. This is the recommendation put forward by our own chief constables to time and a third to look at that, to work those hours. And also, instead of our previous protection in relation to less than 8 days notice of a cancelled rest day, where you'd work a minimum of 8 hours, a minimum of 4 hours into the rest day, if you were required only to work 15 minutes or so, you would be compensated for changing your plans around, making accommodations for your children, your care needs, whatever you had planned beforehand. You knew you were going to be compensated for a minimum of 4 hours. The chief constables now, they don't like that because it costs too much money, and they want to remove that from our pay and working conditions. So they want to remove that element of regulations and also only pay us time and a third.
Have you sought answers from your own chief officer group, from CC Shiner, about why they're doing this, why they're going for officers and officers' pay packets as well?
I have had a conversation with her, and I haven't had much of a response from her in relation to it, I'm afraid. So her silence speaks volumes to me around possibly what she thinks about it. I have broached the question with her because it's the right thing to do on behalf of the membership, so that we can understand what our chief constable position is. At the moment, how I feel as the collective MPCC are targeting the office of constable and the office of sergeant. There are certain things that they're introducing for inspectors as well that creates a slight detriment. But there are things in there that are slightly positive.
We'll move on to those in a second. I just wanted to finish off around the attacks. What can you as a federation do to mitigate the attacks? Because we know that police officers cannot take industrial action. We know that. We know that the National Federation, Police Federation of England and Wales have launched a Hands Off Our Rest Days campaign. What is that it? Is there anything more you can do? You've made representations to your own chief officer. We're talking about it. We're publicising it. Is there anything else you can do?
So, me personally, I have been speaking to our local politicians because they are the gatekeepers to legislation being changed. And I have notified them around the recommendations being put forward by the MPCC, the recommendations being put forward by the Federation, and spoken about also the vote that we took 2 years ago in relation to when we polled our members in relation to industrial rights. And the element that we're looking for in industrial rights is the collective bargaining with binding arbitration. And what does that mean? That means that we get to go to the table and actually start negotiating. And once those negotiations are done, those are binding moving forward. So when the PRRB make a decision and the recommendations, then those recommendations are moving forward. They don't need approval from the Home Secretary. They don't need approval from the Treasury.
Yeah, so for watchers and listeners, what we should say at the moment is that the PRRB could recommend a 5% pay rise for police officers, but the Home Secretary go, thanks for that, but actually I think they should get 3.5%, and that's it. So it's, a lot of people would argue it's kind of a pointless exercise at the moment because they're just advising, and the Home Secretary can ignore that advice and say what he or she wants. So that's where the binding element comes in, isn't it, right?
And it's a really important point because at the moment we haven't got that in place. So when you say, well, what can we do? We're extremely vulnerable when it comes to our pay and working conditions, if I'm honest with members. And that needs to change. And that's why we polled our members and they made quite clearly they want 97.7% of our members that were polled, and there was over 50,000 of them, want industrial rights in the form of collective bargaining with binding arbitration. And that's something collectively National Federation have to keep moving forward to.
So there's a conversation on where in the middle of June there's a meeting of national chairs and secretaries. And obviously there's the National Police Federation conference in October where there's a platform to speak to politicians. Were you suggesting, you're saying that that's a voice that's a message you'll be amplifying at those sorts of events?
For me, every time I meet with a politician, pay and working conditions are at the forefront of my mind because they are one of the most influential individuals in society that can support us through that. Look, at the moment we have a majority Labour government. They were built out of the unions, so I'd expect that we would get serious support moving forward from Labour politicians. I know what the Conservative stance is on collective bargaining, binding arbitration, and they're not interested in entertaining that whatsoever because they see that as a risk for the country. But yet we look at other parts of the industry where they have got the right to withdraw labour, and I'm not suggesting that's what we want.
No, but you look at firefighters or junior doctors,
and the leverage that they have achieves something for them. The leverage that we have achieves minimal success for us, I think, at the moment.
Well, you look, there was the Prison Officers Association conference just recently, and obviously prison officers aren't able to take industrial action either. And they have literally called on the government to reintroduce their ability to strike. Now, whether they get that or not remains to be seen in the wash, but they have asked for that. So that's what I'm sort of inferring, is that, I know what you said about you'll take it to politicians, you do take it to politicians, but will you be pushing your fellow chairs and secretaries in mid-June and maybe the national conference to have a greater focus, shall we say, on this industrial rights matter?
This is a really important point and an important topic, especially for us here in Sussex and for me personally, that if our members have been polled and they have shared their voice with us and told us what they want to the tune of 97.7%, which is quite a large scale of people that have been polled as well.
Yeah.
So that's quite a good pool to get a sense of feeling in relation to what the members want. Now, look, if the Prison Officers Union are looking at getting industrial rights, if they get it, that offsets a lot of risk onto us, I personally think. Okay, moving forward, we're not asking for the withdrawal of Labour. I need to make that clear. We just want to be able to have a seat at the table, have those conversations, and once the PRRB makes a decision, that is binding. It doesn't need to go to anyone else. Similar to what our politicians have at the moment.
And your colleagues in Scotland have that
and
as
our
well.
colleagues in Scotland, similar to what the politicians have at the moment here in the UK, where their remuneration review body takes place. They make a decision, it moves forward. There is no intermediary that has to make any further decisions on that moving forward. And now we're seeing our MPs and their salary percentage points are increasing year on year, well beyond inflation, but yet they want to keep those that protect the public and them, by the way, Royston, below inflation, real terms inflation. And on top of that, our chief constables are suggesting that they want a 3.5% uplift in pay for them and their superintendent colleagues, but actually for the PCs all the way up to chief inspector, only a 2.5%. And if it is funded by government, they will go to 3.5%.
That's disgraceful, isn't it?
It doesn't make us feel very much appreciated, Royston, at all.
Well, I think you're being very polite there, Raf. You're a very polite man. It's an outrage, isn't it? I think I personally think you can go further, because that's one rule for them and one rule for us, isn't it?
There are some significant disparities there, Royston, that I've tried to address, and I've been met with silence. And that should speak volumes to the membership around how that's being dealt with. Why weren't we consulted? Why weren't we spoken to? Why wasn't the membership consulted? Why are the NPCC talking about our rank and file officers without any consultation?
Well, we've just seen that
on them.
We've just seen that in the last week or so, haven't we, with pensions as well?
Yeah.
I'll refer to that quickly if I may.
Of course you can, yeah.
The change to the lump sum that retiring officers, I think it was from May the 21st, were able to take overnight. Just they get less money and no consultation. I mean, this is a government. I mean, we've talked about chief officer, but this is also a government that just is like treading on police officers, treating you like dirt. We talk about police officers look after vulnerable people in society. Okay, we talk about safeguarding. The office of constable has been taken advantage of. We are vulnerable when it comes to pay and working conditions. Government sees that we are vulnerable, and we've now been attacked in line with our police pensions lump sum commutation, which has been reduced significantly for a lot of people. Especially, the decision was made on the 20th. On the 21st, it was implemented without no consultation with the Federation whatsoever. So that leaves all these members that are coming up to retirement, okay, in a position where they've made plans for their retirement. A certain amount of money is going to be coming in. And now they're left with, on average, I think it's about 4.2% less. And when we're talking about thousands of pounds of money, that's a lot. Yeah.
And that's a huge impact.
Money that a lot of people thought they were getting, knew they were getting, expected they were going to get as well.
And as much as they're not losing that money isn't going anywhere, they're losing it off their commutation, but it's not decreasing the value of their pension. Yeah.
It's more symbolic, isn't it, almost? It's more the attack on officers, it's almost like, well, we can, so we will. Because as you say, I mean, we're actually FOI in the amount of officers it's going to affect across the country, but it's not millions. It's going to be 10,000 officers, 5,000 officers, whatever it is, and it's not saving. It's almost like they can, so they will.
it's a huge impact on officers.
Individually, of course.
Individually, definitely. And collectively, there's a sense of feeling that we are vulnerable.
But it won't save the public purse billions of pounds.
It won't, no. And the decision, I don't know what the decision-making process was at all. I can't make sense of it. For it to be implemented, literally notified on the 20th, 21st, implemented without any type of protection whatsoever. So therefore, there is a transitional period into those new figures. I don't understand that. The only thing I can see is that government and the politicians and NPCC see us as a vulnerable target, and they can change what they want at any time. That's why we need to move forward now, and we need to start looking at our industrial rights angle, and in the form of collective bargaining with binding arbitration. That's what we need. If PFEW are to concentrate on anything, it needs to be on that now, because the NPCC have just shown complete discourtesy, and I'm putting it politely, because there's a sense of feeling out there that they do not care about their frontline officers and what is going into their pocket, considering the cost of living crisis hasn't been in the news recently, but I can assure you when I meet with members, they're still worried about the price of fuel, the price of energy, and the price of food that is diminishing their salary significantly, especially for those new recruits that are coming into the system and earning the lower end of the pay scale. There's not a lot of money in there to make any error within life there for them. So we are vulnerable, and we need our rights cemented in legislation. At the moment, we are being taken advantage of. Like those victims that are being taken advantage of out in the public, we are being taken advantage of when it comes to government. And by the looks of it, the NPCC have joined that session of attack on the office of constable.
Well, it's certainly something that we'll look at as we go throughout the summer and the rest of the year in future podcasts, and also on Sussex Police Federation's social media and in the 1020 magazine as the year progresses. So some more stuff to look at there and to hold people to account of. I just wanted to also talk about, there are a couple of good potential things in the PRRB mix around Southeast allowance as well. So there are, it's not all bad, we should say.
It's not all bad, no. There are obviously those bad points are really important for us because they directly impact the day-to-day life of the constable and the amount of money that they earn, and also the rest day entitlements. There are some things that are positive in there. One of them is around the so what we've submitted is around the shift alteration allowance. Officers in Sussex are seeing that their rest days are being cancelled here, there and everywhere. We put forward to the PRRB last year, it wasn't looked at, but this year it will be, that there needs to be some sort of disincentive for the organisation to change in officers' shifts regularly without a proper reason. So poor planning isn't a reason for that. They need to be planning effectively 90 days in advance, and if they don't, then the constable and sergeant should be compensated appropriately for the damage that does for their lifestyle and their home life. So that's what we're looking at. That's one positive that is being looked at. And also a percentage uplift in relation to the Southeast allowance. That's never happened before. We've been at the maximum for about 2 years now.
It's discretionary as well.
It's discretionary as well, and it's discretion of the chief constable. PFEW would like that discretion to be removed and for it to be looked at by the PRRB only. Here in Sussex, we get £2,000 Southeast allowance. Other regions get more, and it's never been increased in relation to the cap that is left on there. The NPCC and PFEW have asked for it to be linked to percentage uplift in salaries.
Yeah, I mean, you look at colleagues in Kent and Essex, you've had theirs reduced over the last year or so as well. So it is at risk to a chief's, not whim might be the wrong word, but a chief's decision, I suppose. Yeah. So we want that taken away, basically. Yeah. So we want that decision-making process to be done by the NPCC. Yeah. So therefore, there is no pressures for a chief constable to be making a decision in relation to Southeast allowance based on the balance sheet that she has in front of her or he, because at the moment that's what it's looking like in Kent and in Essex. It's happening, and we're seeing £250 taken out of the pockets annually of police officers, which isn't a great place to be, and it leaves the federation. It's a pay cut.
It is a pay cut, and it leaves the federation in a really peculiar position where how do we defend that? We can only use our voice. With the withdrawal of labour, we can't do, but we want that power removed from the chief constables and to sit with the PRRB to make a evidence-based decision on the overall picture rather than the picture that sits in front of a chief constable.
Yeah, it's a bit of a theme in this podcast, isn't it, really, around the inability to walk out. I mean, police officers don't want that, do they? They don't want to vote with their feet. And I suppose there's two ways of walking, hasn't there? One is to exit the job, and one is to withdraw your labour. Now, police officers, A, they can't, and we're not encouraging that because that would be disaffection. But the fact of the matter is, since 1919, you've not been allowed to strike.
No.
And B, police officers can leave, but we don't want them to. Economics. If they leave, we'll give them more money to make them stay. But we don't need to get to that point, do we?
No. And a constable who's fully trained and experienced is a huge expense of loss to the public purse. It really is. Isn't it much better to retain these officers in employment and move forward with them being comfortable and happy within the organisation, rather than them feeling undervalued completely simply because of pay and conditions and further restrictions that are placed on the office of constable? There is the office of constable is a significantly restrictive role. There are huge amounts of restrictions on the office of constable, and that needs to be remunerated and compensated appropriately. With the conditions that they're putting forward, it makes the office of constable a really uncomfortable place to be moving forward, especially for all the sacrifices they make.
Yeah.
And at the moment, they've shown no courtesy from the MPCC whatsoever for that sacrifice. They may give us some warm words, Royston, but they need to show that within our pay packet, because we need to be able to sustain our livelihoods and our families, which is most importantly. And at the moment, they're trying to diminish that.
And to finish then, your message to chief officers, hopefully watching this, whether they're from Sussex or beyond, what would your message be them? I'll reverse that. What would your message be to them around police officer pay and conditions?
Well, the damage is done with their recommendations being put forward. In the future, I would suggest that we need some appropriate engagement from the MPCC when they're coming forward to talking about our pay. This is our pay that we're talking about. We're the only representation that our members have, and there's been no consultation. You throw forward recommendations that simply benefit you. You need to look at the ramification that this has. You have demotivated and made your members feel, or made your officers feel, completely undervalued. This is an attack, and it feels like an attack. When I speak to members out on the ground, they feel like they're being attacked from their own leaders, and that's not the kind of leadership that you want to show. Please, I would encourage that actually the MPCC do give us the courtesy of making comment on any submissions in the future, because we need to be able to show them the sense of feeling that's going to come from what they're recommending.
Thanks, Raf. Thank you for tuning into the latest Sussex Police Federation podcast. Thank you for sticking with us if there was any building noise as part of this podcast, but we will reveal to you in the coming weeks and months what that building noise is going to lead to for Sussex Police Federation members and members of the Sussex Police Group Insurance Scheme. So thanks to Raf, and we'll see you again soon on another episode of the Sussex Police Federation podcast.
Thanks, Royston.